What happens when country music's biggest legend finally snaps on live television? In just 24 seconds, everything falls apart in the most shocking way possible. Before we dive into this absolute chaos, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We bring you daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals and the confrontations everyone's talking about. You won't want to miss what happens next. Last night on The View, what started as a conversation about country music and politics turned into an absolute disaster that nobody saw coming. Dolly Parton, the woman known for being sweet as pie and never saying a bad word about anyone, walked onto that stage with a smile. Joy Behar welcomed her with open arms, or so it seemed. The conversation started off normal enough. They talked about Dolly's new album, her theme park, and her charity work. The audience was eating it up, clapping and cheering for every word that came out of Dolly's mouth. Dolly was being her usual charming self, telling stories about growing up poor in Tennessee, making the audience laugh with her self-deprecating humor about her appearance. She talked about her Imagination Library, the program that sends free books to kids all over the country. People were wiping away tears when she described how important reading was to her as a child. But then Joy decided to steer the conversation in a different direction. And that's when you could feel the temperature in the room change. The smile on Joy's face shifted from genuine warmth to something else entirely. Something calculated. She adjusted herself in her seat, and if you were watching closely, you could see the other hosts exchange quick glances. They knew what was coming. Joy leaned forward with that look in her eyes, the one she gets when she's about to ask something she knows will stir the pot. She brought up Dolly's recent comments about staying out of politics and not taking sides on controversial issues. The way Joy said it, you could tell she wasn't just curious. She was coming for Dolly. Her tone had changed completely from the warmth she'd shown just seconds earlier. This was the Joy Behar that people either loved or hated, depending on which side of the political fence they sat on. "So, Dolly," Joy said with a smirk, "some people are saying that your refusal to take a stand on important issues is actually a stand itself. That by staying silent, you're supporting the wrong side of history." The audience got quiet. You could hear a pin drop. Someone in the back coughed, and it echoed through the studio. The camera zoomed in on Dolly's face, catching every micro-expression. Dolly's smile didn't fade, but something shifted in her eyes. You could see it if you were watching carefully. Her fingers tightened slightly on the armrest of her chair. She took a breath, a deliberate one, the kind you take when you're trying to stay calm, and responded in that classic Dolly way, with grace and a little humor. "Well, Joy, I've always believed that my music and my message of love reaches more people when I don't divide them with politics. I'm here for everybody, not just one side or the other. I always say, I'm not offending nobody, I'm for everybody. Whether you're gay, straight, black, white, Democrat, Republican, I think everybody deserves love and respect." It was a perfect Dolly answer, the kind that had gotten her through decades of interviews without making enemies. But Joy wasn't having it. You could see her jaw clench. She pressed harder, bringing up specific political issues and asking Dolly point-blank where she stood. She mentioned healthcare, immigration, voting rights, one after another, like she was reading from a checklist. The other hosts started looking uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Sunny Hostin looked down at her note cards. Sarah Haynes bit her lip. Whoopi tried to jump in and change the subject, tried to redirect to something lighter, but Joy cut her off with a wave of a hand. "No, I think this is important," Joy said, her voice getting louder, echoing through the studio now. You have a platform, Dolly. You have millions of fans who look up to you, who trust you, who buy your records and go to your theme park. Don't you think you have a responsibility to use that platform for good? Don't you think you owe it to them to guide them in the right direction? That's when Dolly's expression changed. The smile was still there, but it was different now. Harder, tighter, like a mask that was starting to crack. Her southern accent got a little thicker, which people who knew her well would recognize as a sign that she was getting upset. Her voice stayed calm, but there was steel in it now. The kind of steel that came from growing up poor and fighting for everything she ever got. Joy, I've spent my entire life using my platform for good. I've built schools, funded vaccines for children during a pandemic, helped people in need regardless of who they voted for or what they believed in. I've given millions of dollars to charity. What I don't do is tell people how to think. What I don't do is assume I know better than them about what's right for their lives and their families. The tension was thick now. You could feel it through the television screen. Joy's face was getting red, that particular shade of red that comes right before someone loses their temper completely. Her hands were moving more as she talked, gesturing wildly. She wasn't backing down. She started listing off political issues again, demanding to know Dolly's position on each one, raising her voice with each question. The audience started murmuring, some people clearly uncomfortable with where this was going. You could hear scattered whispers throughout the studio. A few people were shaking their heads. Dolly put her hand up, a gesture that was polite but firm. I came here today to talk about my music and my charity work, not to be interrogated about my political beliefs. Interrogated? Joy shot back, her voice sharp now. I'm asking you legitimate questions that your fans deserve answers to. If you're too scared to answer them, maybe that says something about your character. The gasket was about to blow. You could see it in Dolly's face. Her eyes were blazing now, something nobody had ever seen before from America's sweetheart. The audience gasped at Joy's comment about her character. Several people in the front row had their mouths hanging open. Even the other hosts looked shocked, truly shocked. Sunny tried to say something, started to open her mouth to intervene, but the damage was done. The words were out there, floating in the air like poison. Dolly stood up, slowly, deliberately, her movements measured and controlled. Her smile was completely gone now, replaced by an expression of pure fury mixed with disappointment. She looked Joy dead in the eye, not blinking, not backing down, and said, "You know what, Joy? I've been called a lot of things in my life. I've been called stupid because of how I look. I've been called a bimbo because I'm blonde. I've been underestimated my entire career, but a coward ain't one of them. I'm not scared of you or your questions. I'm just tired of people like you thinking you have the right to bully others into thinking the way you do. I'm tired of this kind of behavior being passed off as activism or caring about people." The studio went completely silent. The kind of silence that feels heavy, oppressive. Joy's mouth dropped open. She clearly wasn't expecting Dolly, sweet Dolly Parton, the woman who never said anything bad about anyone, to come back at her like that. But Dolly wasn't done, not by a long shot. She was just getting started, and years of frustration seemed to be pouring out of her all at once. I've spent 60 years in this business being kind to everyone, working my ass off and helping people. And you have the nerve to sit there and question my character because I won't play your political games? That's real rich coming from someone who makes a living tearing people down on television. Joy jumped to her feet, her face now bright red. The veins in her neck were visible, pulsing with rage. Excuse me? I'm not the one who refuses to stand up for what's right. I'm not the one hiding behind some fake I love everybody act while people are losing their rights, while children are going hungry, while the planet is dying. You want to talk about helping people? How about using your voice when it actually matters, instead of just writing checks and singing songs? Fake? Dolly's voice got louder now, and you could hear the anger creeping in, raw and unfiltered. Her accent got even thicker, her words coming faster. Honey, there ain't nothing fake about me. I've never pretended to be something I'm not. I've never put on an act. What you see is what you get. But you? You sit up here every day pretending you care about people, pretending you want to help them, when really, you just want everyone to think exactly like you do. You want them to be your little soldiers, marching to your drum. That ain't love, that's control, that's ego. The other hosts were frozen. The audience didn't know whether to clap or stay quiet. Some people were actually standing up, filming this on their phones. This was television history happening right before everyone's eyes. Joy pointed her finger at Dolly, practically shaking with anger. You don't get to come on my show and disrespect me like this. I've been doing this for years, and I will not be spoken to this way by some country singer who's too chicken to take a real stand on anything. That was it. That was the moment everything exploded. Dolly took a step toward Joy, and even though she's not a tall woman, barely over 5 feet, she somehow seemed to tower over everyone in that moment. Her presence filled the entire studio. The way she carried herself, the look in her eyes. It was commanding in a way nobody had ever seen from her before. Your show? Dolly said, her voice low and dangerous now, like the rumble before a storm. Each word was precise, deliberate. Last time I checked, this show had multiple hosts, Joy. But you're so damn full of yourself that you think it's all about you. You think your name should be the only one in the title. Well, let me tell you something. I came here as a guest, with respect, ready to have a nice conversation. I cleared my schedule, I showed up on time, I was prepared to be gracious and kind. But you couldn't help yourself. You had to push and push and push until you got a reaction. You had to try to make yourself look good by making me look bad. Joy was sputtering now, trying to get words out but failing. Her mouth was opening and closing like a fish out of water. The producers off camera were probably losing their minds, screaming into their headsets, trying to figure out if they should cut to commercial or let this play out. This was live television, and it was going completely off the rails in spectacular fashion. The control room had to be in absolute chaos. But they kept the cameras rolling because they knew this was ratings gold. The kind of moment that would be replayed for decades. And you know what the really sad part is? Dolly continued, her voice shaking with emotion now, her eyes actually welling up with tears. I actually used to respect you, Joy. I really did. I thought you were funny, smart, someone who stood up for what they believed in. I admired your strength, your willingness to speak your mind. But now I see you're just a bully, hiding behind a desk and a microphone. You don't want conversation, you don't want dialogue, you want submission. You want people to bow down to your opinions, and if they don't, you attack them. And I don't submit to nobody. Not to men in the music industry, not to record executives, not to anyone. And I sure as hell ain't gonna submit to you. Whoopi finally managed to cut in, her voice urgent. Okay, let's take a break. Let's everyone just calm down. But Joy wasn't done. She moved around the desk, her movements jerky and aggressive, getting closer to Dolly. You could see the other hosts tense up, ready to intervene if necessary. Security guards along the perimeter of the studio shifted their weight, hands moving to their radios. You want to talk about bullies? You're the one who came on here and attacked me. You're the one standing there pointing fingers and making accusations. All I did was ask you some simple questions. Questions that millions of people want answers to. But you can't handle it when someone challenges you, can you? You're so used to everyone kissing your ass and telling you how wonderful you are that you can't deal with actual criticism. You called me fake, Dolly shouted back, and the audience gasped again, because nobody had ever heard Dolly Parton yell before. Her voice filled the entire studio, powerful and clear despite her anger. You questioned my character, my integrity, everything I've worked for my whole life. You sat there with that smug look on your face and tried to tear me down in front of millions of people. And for what? Because I won't be your political puppet? Because I won't tell people how to vote? Because I believe in bringing people together instead of tearing them apart? Joy's voice was getting higher and more shrill. I never said that. You're twisting my words. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're playing the victim here when all I wanted was for you to be honest with your fans. Honest? Dolly laughed, but there was no humor in it. You wouldn't know honest if it bit you in the ass, Joy. This whole thing was a setup from the start. You didn't bring me here to talk about music or charity. You brought me here to try to trap me into saying something you could use against me. The other hosts were trying to restore order, but it was useless. This had gone too far. Security was starting to move closer to the stage, just in case things got physical. Joy's hands were shaking now, her voice breaking. That's not true. I brought you here because I thought you were someone worth listening to. Someone who might actually have something important to say. But I was wrong. You're just another celebrity who cares more about their image than making a difference. Dolly grabbed her purse from beside her chair. Her hands were shaking too, but her voice was steady and cold. You know what, Joy? I'm done. I'm done with this conversation, I'm done with this show, and I'm done with you. I came here with nothing but good intentions, and you turned it into a damn circus. Then leave, Joy screamed, completely losing it now. Get out! If you can't handle a real conversation, then get the hell off my show. The audience was in shock. Half of them were booing. The other half were trying to figure out who they should be supporting. The other hosts looked like they wanted to crawl under the table. This was a complete disaster. Dolly picked up her coat and turned to face Joy one last time. You don't have to tell me twice. I've dealt with men in the music industry trying to control me my whole life. And I didn't let them do it either. You think you're tough, Joy? You think you're making a difference? All you're doing is pushing people further apart. And that's on you, not me. Joy was crying now, actual tears streaming down her face, but she was still yelling. Fine, go! Run away like you always do. Hide behind your wigs and your smile and your bullshit positivity. At least I have the guts to stand for something. Dolly stopped at the edge of the stage and turned back one more time. Her voice was quieter now, but everyone could hear her. "I stand for love, Joy. Real love. The kind that doesn't come with conditions or demands that you think the same way I do. The kind that sees people as human beings, not political pawns. You should try it sometime." With that, Dolly Parton walked off the stage of The View, her heels clicking on the floor as she went. The audience was a mix of gasps, cheers, and stunned silence. Joy Behar stood there, mascara running down her face, looking absolutely destroyed. But then, something nobody expected happened. Joy ripped off her microphone and threw it on the desk. "You know what?" she said to the cameras, her voice hoarse from yelling. "I'm done too. I can't do this anymore. I can't sit here and pretend like everything's fine when it's not." The other hosts jumped up, trying to stop her, but Joy was already moving. She grabbed her stuff and started walking toward the exit, following the same path Dolly had taken just moments before. "Joy, wait!" Whoopi called out, but Joy wasn't listening. "I quit!" Joy shouted back without turning around. "I'm done with this show. I'm done with all of it." And just like that, both the guest and the host walked off The View in the span of 2 minutes. The remaining hosts sat there in complete shock, the cameras still rolling, the audience not knowing whether to clap or sit in silence. Someone finally called for a commercial break, but the damage was done. The most shocking confrontation in talk show history had just happened live. And nobody who watched it will ever forget the day Dolly Parton and Joy Behar both said, "Enough is enough," and walked away from the madness.